Everyone, we are back for a new episode of the MenopauseIt podcast, which I like to dub the days since last incident. Currently, we are 354 days since last incident. And if any of you are wondering what that means, I'm sure we'll spell it out for you here in the episode. But menopause, as you may or may not know, happens, you're officially in it once you hit so many days after a menstrual cycle. Yay! But I always like to kind of mark that because who knows what's going to happen after, in the days to come and stuff. We're not official, we're official, whatever. But that's what we're covering on this podcast on menopause. And I always like to make sure you're not just hearing from me, you're able to hear from experts in the field, people who know about this thing we're all going through or going to go through. So with that, today I'm bringing you our guest, who is a Denver urogynecologist, a specialty that pairs urology and gynecology in the treatment of women's health issues. And if you didn't know those two go together, now you do, and you're about to know more. She has devoted her practice to women treating women as they navigate various health concerns over their lifetime, and that includes menopause, pelvic floor disorders, everyone raise your hand if you can relate with that, bladder control, and overall general woman's wellness. I am thrilled thus far to welcome Dr. Terry Dunn to MenopauseIt. Dr. Dunn, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you, Rachel, for having me. And I'm so glad to be here because I'm passionate about caring for the menopausal woman. The menopausal women now are just discovering that they had it wrong for so many years. And so they're trying to get health treatment and understand this whole very important stage of life that we live in.
Absolutely.
And I'm passionate about taking care of women here. I go to Africa every year and do volunteer work and take care of women there. And, there are menopausal women all over the world that need care and consideration.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm so happy to have you here on the podcast. We put this out. We hope more women are able to see it. And whether they're women who are in menopause or not yet, or maybe they already have been and they've already experienced it, but it's just so important to be able to get the word spread. And so I'm excited to have this opportunity to really say, hey, Dr. Dunn, we know you go to Africa and things like that. Let's take this farther. Really briefly, too, I know I just gave you a super brief intro. I'd love to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about yourself, like your expertise, your practice, your family, whereabouts do you call home? A little bit more about yourself, Dr. Dunn. I'll hand it over to you. Tell us about you.
Well, I have spent my whole career taking care of women, and I love urogynecology because it blends the world of urology, which is traditionally for men, for women, and gynecology. And so it's the perfect combination. And before I practiced here in Denver, I practiced at Denver Health for 16 years, taking care of the indigent. And that was a wonderful practice. And urogynecology is a new field. It's a field where it just became a subspecialty in 2014, where they recognized that you needed special training and special care. And especially in menopause, the urogynecology issues become huge. And women need extra help. And so I'm so happy to take care of them and the perimenopausal woman, the woman who's coming up on menopause, because we use a strict definition for menopause, but there are so many perimenopausal women that are going through that right now and don't understand and don't know what the health benefits of hormone replacement are.
Yeah.
And the safety and the efficacy. And it really is an important time to be talking about it because the FDA just lifted their black box warning on hormones. And it was a bad study 25 years ago. and it scientifically wasn't very rigorous, and it changed a whole generation of women's experience in menopause.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a little more about me: I have 3 children, and I have grandchildren, and I'm still working full time
Wow.
and plan on doing that for a while. And I have a wonderful husband who's a family doc.
Nice.
So, and he just retired. And we love to travel and ski and hike and do all the Colorado things that we are so lucky to be able to enjoy.
Love that. Well, thank you. That's wonderful to hear too. And I personally hope you keep going as long as possible because you just said a lot too there that, oh my goodness, there's a lot of current stuff you just brought up that is like super recent. Like you just said, in the last month, that happened where the FDA took the black box off of hormonal replacement therapy and information about that as far as women's health. I, for one, when I first learned about that study as I hit menopause and was like, what is going on here? Why isn't there more? And really delving into that and learning about that study and experiencing it for myself, going to a healthcare provider who's like, well, there's this study. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop you there because I have heard there's problems with that study and stuff. So, and then you just brought that up too, that it was in 2014 was the first time urogynecology became its own specialty. Yet we know women have been having these pelvic floor issues and the stuff and menopause, and that's all associated. That didn't just start in 2014, right? So
no. And someone to be able to take care of women and have an interest. And there's still a shortage of urogynecologists. I think in the state of Colorado, I don't think there's 10.
Whoa.
And so, find one. They're great. And they have a special interest in pelvic floor disorders and menopause because so many of the problems that show up in menopause.
Yeah.
They were slight problems before, but problems with control of your bladder and your bowels and sexual function and issues that women are afraid to talk about. With their primary care doc. Their primary care doc is great, and every woman should have one. But the problem is that you're talking about your hypertension or your cholesterol, and you're thinking, oh, my sexual function isn't important. You think that's not a real issue. And
Right.
It is a real issue for our well-being and for our heads and for our body and for our self-esteem.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate you saying that too. I'll, people who listen to the podcast already or have been on my channel know, I mean, that was one of my first symptoms that I was calling out to my doctor. I'm like, I don't want to have sex anymore. This isn't great for me, and it just got a bunch of like, oh, well, you might be this, that, or the other, but combining that with other symptoms and finally doing the math and also the fact that my mom hit menopause at the same time. And I'm like, well, I'm that age. So can we call this real now? And finally got that ball rolling. So something I do with every guest on this podcast, obviously we're talking about menopause. Are you able to give me, like, if you had to describe menopause, the experience of menopause in one word, what would that word be?
I think the word should be grace.
Yeah.
Give yourself the grace and the forgiveness of aging.
Yeah.
But that isn't the word. I think the word is kind of fear.
Yeah.
And your body's changing and you don't understand it. And so many things are tied to menopause, joint pain, fused shoulders, things that doctors who don't think about menopause don't realize that these symptoms are part of menopause. And then it's just like adolescence. I'm sure if you remember your own adolescent or you had a daughter It's like one day you woke up and there was a different person.
Yeah.
She'd gone to bed as a child and she woke up as an adolescent.
Yeah.
And struggled with identity and struggled with, how do I feel? My body feels different. I don't feel the same about this that I felt yesterday.
Yeah.
There is a brain fog associated with menopause where you can't remember things and you just feel kind of disconnected. And, the best treatment is hormone replacement. And then there's this bad study.
Yeah.
And so many doctors don't keep up because they have too much else to keep up for. I'm
Right.
not being critical at all.
Right.
They just don't have the time, even the OBGYN, because the general OBGYN is really dealing so much with obstetrics and has that on their plate. Where the gynecologist or the urogynecologist really only has to think about GYN and the effects of menopause.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And I think, wasn't it too, like, if you look at how much a general, even a primary care doctor, let's leave out the OBGYN part, how much schooling or training they actually get on about menopause in their vast educational stint. It's very little.
It's very little. About a year ago, there was an article in the New York Times about menopause, and it said that the average hours that a medical student spends on menopause in their 4 years is an hour.
Oh my gosh.
1 hour. And they're dealing with a whole group of women. And the woman who is 50 in menopause is different than the woman who's 80.
Yes.
But the woman who's 80 still is entitled to feel good, think right, prevent osteoporosis, still have sex, still have an identity. We've gotten so used to writing off the old, and we are living so much longer
Yeah.
that we're spending at least a third of our lives in menopause.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up. So that article, I think the one you're referring to is by Susan Dominus. I actually, on my channel, if y'all want to go listen to it or watch it, thankfully, New York Times, you can read it on the New York Times. You can also listen to her narrate it. And I did a whole reaction to it because it's like, it blows your mind. That was just one part of it that you're just like, make this make sense to me. So let's get a little bit more into your specialty, into that urogynecology, because we kind of, jokingly said it at the beginning, like, if you're in menopause, you understand why this is a big deal. But y'all, you might be a woman who had just had vaginal births and you're having problems with pelvic floor and stuff. And I definitely want to defer to you and let you speak to that, Dr. Dunn, because that importance, the context of the entire pelvic area matters to our health. And that's not just vaginal, it's not just menstrual, but it is about, bladder and things like that, and matters to our quality of life. Can you talk to us a little bit more about your approach in urogynecology and why treating menopause isn't limited solely to our reproductive systems?
Yes, what I think is that we are reproductive creatures, and we are going to deal with our pelvic floor our whole life.
Yeah.
We start off with menstruation, that change from childhood to becoming menstrual, and then becoming reproductive. And one of the things that I think is that for young women having babies, and now we're getting older having babies.
Yeah.
The average age has changed from my mother's generation to this generation to my daughter's generation. Yeah. They're having babies even later. Taking care of the pelvic floor, the bladder, the rectum, postpartum is very important because it will affect how you are in menopause. And so we believe in Kegel exercises. I think being proactive and being involved in physical therapy after you have a baby, even if you haven't had problems, to know what to prevent,
Yeah.
because there's so much risk of prolapse when you get menopausal. When the tissues lose their estrogen, they become less pliable.
Yeah.
And the way you had your birth, if you had an instrument delivery, if you had to push for a long time, if you had a big baby, and then on the other side, if you had a very rapid delivery, can change the tissue, turgor, and tension. And if you work with it in your 30s and 40s, it's only going to help you in your 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And so it's something to think about. And one of the things that I think women are afraid to talk about is sexual function.
Yeah.
You know, after a baby, you're sore, and then a lot of women just assume, well, sex is going to be different.
Right.
And then there's your head of how you feel about yourself, because things look different after you've had a baby, an 8-pound baby go through the vagina. The vagina is going to look different. It doesn't just pop back.
Right.
And so you have to work at it so that you don't have the issues with overactive bladder and stress urinary incontinence and fecal incontinence. And those are all things that we can work on to prevent by just being proactive in your 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Yeah.
And again, I can't emphasize enough, but talking to your doctor and getting symptomatic hormone replacement is good.
Yeah.
If you're someone who can't take hormone replacement, there's certainly topical vaginal estrogen, which gets rid of the genitourinary symptoms of menopause. And then there's vaginal rejuvenation, which is a great thing that I recommend for a lot of women after babies
Yeah.
to help tighten and get new collagen growth. And it used to be taboo. Oh, only people who are weird do vaginal rejuvenation.
Right.
And it's really a very helpful thing because it's exactly what it says.
Yeah.
Is rejuvenate your vagina and that area and work with a physical therapist preventively. You don't have to do it forever.
Yeah.
But learn some exercises and learn some tricks and tips. And then also think about your head, about how you think about yourself and how you think about sexual function. And then once you get menopausal, your testosterone levels fall.
Yeah.
And your libido goes down, your libido and your energy. And so you should be working with the doctor who's saying, your libido is not down because there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Your libido's down because your hormones have changed.
Yeah.
Just like the adolescent. I think of those transitions of night and day very much as the same as going from perimenopause to menopause.
Yep.
It's a big change. And it's a big change in identity.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up too. We obviously can focus on the physical all day. You know, I mean, it's physical manifestations are happening. Whether, you know, again, it could be, oh, I feel dry down there when I'm trying to have sex or just generally, or, oh, my hair went all brittle, or we're getting those lovely, we all love these, right? The little chin hairs that, you know, hey, I'm going to pluck it at 9 a.m. and it's back by 4, you know, and, you know, dealing with all these different symptoms, the brain fog, glad you brought that up. But the mental health aspect to it is so important too. Because, yeah, listen, I remember when my daughter, so I was not even to perimenopause yet. My daughter and I she wanted to try out karate. And so we went and tried out a class. They let you do that, you know, hey, try it out for free. And they had us doing jumping jacks. And I had a problem because any woman who's,
Right.
if you're a woman who has not maybe taken care of Dunn Kegel exercises after you gave vaginal birth and stuff, and you go try to do jumping jacks, have fun with that, because you almost need to have a Depends diaper for that kind of thing, because your pelvic floor is like you practically wet yourself. And listen, that is obviously a physical thing happening to me, but that's going to mess with my brain and my
Right.
perception of myself. And yeah, I'm so glad you brought that. That's a huge aspect of what we're having to contend with as well.
Because the physical is real, but then it makes you feel old. And once you feel old and you don't feel like yourself, and you have all the normal things of aging. I mean, we all age, men age, women age, but we can live our best life. And we have to do it because, if you don't, then it's premature aging.
Yeah. And nobody wants that. I mean, I think that's so important. We all need to acknowledge, yes, aging will happen. There's all kinds of things we can do to let's prolong this, or let me, I dye my hair blue because I enjoy it, I'm like, but at some we can do it wherever we want. But I really love the take that's like, but we can be living our best lives and not get written off like that's just your lot in life now because you're older. Right?
Well, and that's one thing that I really wanted to say to women, and I say it to my patients all the time. They come in and I'll say, do you leak urine, for example? And they'll say, yeah, I have for 10 years, but it's just part of getting old.
Aw.
It isn't part of getting old. It's something we can fix. We can fix the overactive bladder. We can fix the stress incontinence. And they don't have to be invasive surgeries.
Right.
And we can fix that sex is uncomfortable. And we can fix your energy and libido. And we can help prevent Alzheimer's. We can help prevent that.
Yeah.
And please don't be afraid of hormone replacement.
Yeah.
That if I have one thing to say, please don't be afraid of it. For example, I have a family history of breast cancer.
Right.
So I can't take hormones. Well, you wouldn't cut your breasts off because you have a family history of breast cancer.
Right.
Or, well, you'd never take your ovaries out because you had hypertension.
Right.
So you have to remember that all that's going on in your body that's causing these changes is that your ovaries have stopped working. Just like they start working, now they've stopped working.
Yeah.
And we need to replace those hormones that they were making to give you the good benefit of being a woman.
Yeah. And I believe too, and this again kind of hinges off the bad study that was done, the earlier you start, when you're in perimenopause and then right as you're getting to menopause, it's better to do it then than to wait and do it later when you're like, well, I've been in menopause for a while now. But you can actually, it's preventive to do hormone replacement therapy in those earlier days when you're starting to experience perimenopause. I am so glad you were here with us today. So thank you so much, Dr. Dunn, Dr. Terry Dunn, for being on our MenopauseIt podcast. And we're just hoping for better days ahead for all women. Thank you all for listening and watching wherever you find your favorite podcasts. We are there, but make sure you find and follow us, follow our links online, MenopauseIt, and join the community. Let us know how we're doing. Ask questions in the comments. And if there's stuff that you want to know about menopause that we need to have a guest on about, I will make it happen. But Dr. Dunn, once again, thank you so much for being on the pod. So that's been the Days Since Last Incident podcast on the MenopauseIt channel. Thanks so much for watching and listening. If you liked this video or reacted strongly to it, like it right here. If you would like to hear more and like to keep commiserating and learning, subscribe. That'd be great. Really appreciate it. And share it with folks. That's a big way too. But yeah, thank you so much. And we'll be back with some more content here on the MenopauseIt channel.